Welcome to Politics News Wolf US channel. Great confusion and rebellions are at the door in the Russian army. The defeats and losses in the war in Ukraine upset memorial of the soldiers fighting at the front. Considering that not an eventful day has passed in the Russian barracks, the collapse of the Russian army may be imminent. A reality that has emerged in the past days proves the uneasy atmosphere. The Russians mobilized in the 51st Tula Airborne Regiment broke their legs and arms to avoid returning to the front, under the command of Wagner PMC, while on vacation. This was expressed by Russian military blogger and expert Andrei Mozo. The reaction of Putin, who has to face this bitter reality, is curious. According to him, he mobilized deliberately injured themselves because they are threatened by the Vanyar, even as they work on the evacuation. Morozov said. Of course, people don't want to be shot in the back of their own people for something they can't influence. In addition, the military personnel of the 51st Regiment of the Air Force complain about the problem with the humanitarian cargo, everything that comes from the soldiers. The Aryans take it for themselves. Mozo said the Wagners feel untouchable. Air Force Commander General Mikhail Linsky wanted to stop this, but was dismissed. It should be not that as an effect of this, Russian military correspondent directly stated their refusal to use the Air Force as an attacked aircraft. It was also written that the previously mobilized Russians refused to go to the massacre in DOAs. According to the military, they were trained for the defense of the territory, but then they were sent to Duns and delivered to self-proclaimed DPR. Those who took action say they decided to record a video message but refused after it was decided that they will attack like cannon folder once. The military is asking the governor to contact the command and somehow influence the commanders. Recall that we said earlier that those mobilized from Novosibirsk, the commander tricked them into assault groups. Meanwhile, the Russian authorities are preparing to inflict heavy losses at the front and high data on the dead. Russian authorities are preparing to send several thousand more troops to Ukraine for massacre against the background of the so-called Contra Act, which has given dubious results with the largest losses of the early troops near Wuledar so far. The Kremlin continues to cover up the real illustration, and the main supporters of the war advocated complete concealment of data on the dead, declaring an EED breakthrough in the defense of the Ukrainian armed forces in DOM. As Russia's large-scale invasion of Ukraine approached the €1 limit, NIS is mounting that Moscow will soon launch a major neo-offensive. Some commentators believe that the offensive may have already begun, as there have been new reports in recent days of Russian troops trying to advance at several points along the hundreds of kilometers of front line across Saturn and Eastern. The widely unsated attacks is being dubbed Moscow's attempt to regain the initiative after months of 4 defeats and humiliating retreats in Ukraine that have tarnished Russia's reputation as a military superpower. Now Vladimir Putin is desperate to show that his invasion is continuing and is gathering large reserves for a new offensive against Ukraine's. However, after a year of disastrous losses that severely depleted many of Russia's most prestigious military units, doubts remain about ability of untested reserves to conduct large-scale offensive operations. To put it mildly, the first signs do not encourage the Kremlin. Thousands of Russian soldiers, including Elite sailors and special forces, are believed to have been killed in late January and early February during an unsuccessful attack on the eastern Ukrainian city of Wuledar. The failed attack sparked widespread horror and anger among programmed-in military bloggers, many of whom accused Russian military commanders of incompetence. Disaster contributed to what British military intelligence said was probably the highest Russian casualty rate since the first week of the invasion. One of the main reasons for the recent increase in casualties is Russia's increasing reliance on conscripts with limited military training. In September 2022, we had been put in response to the increasing casualties in Ukraine by launching the first mobilization in Russia since World War II. Most of the nearly 300,000 people mobilized last year have now been transferred to Ukraine. The arrival of these extra forces helped Russia stop the Ukraine advance during the winter months, but it is not yet clear whether the mobilized troops will be that effective in their offensive capacity. Many mobilized Russians seems dissatisfied with your new role as shark troops in Putin's hesitant Since the first week of February, an increasing number of video messages have been posted on social media with groups of mobilized soldiers complaining about everything from the lack of basic military equipment to suicide orders from their superiors. In a rare, typical video, wives and mothers of mobilized, stand soldiers claimed that their men were used as KO bait in Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of mobilized Russians are expected to join Putin's measure offensive, and this emerging trend called pause, a serious threat to the Kremlin. Judging by the current casual rates, the impending attack causes unprecedented loss of life and a complete demoralization among Russia's already demoralized mobilization troops. This will greatly complicate the life of the Russian army in Ukraine, and face violation of discipline, which will sever the limits its ability to conduct officer operate. And there is no guarantee that the problem will stop there. Russia's own experience in 1917 is reticent of the unforeseen consequences that can occur when an army does not follow orders in wartime, signals that the Kremlin is ready to send a few thousand more soldiers to the front are sent by propagandists and the main supporters of the President of the Cheshire Republic Ramazan Kadyrov urged the leaders of the Russian regions not to comment on the losses of the Russian armed forces in the war Ukraine, but to think about how to repay their homework to the families of the dead and wounded soldiers. According to the General Staff of the Armed Force of Ukraine on the morning of Friday, February 15, the Ukrainian army accumulated 690 Russian soldiers in one day. The total number of the casualties of the Russian army since the beginning of the invasion is 139,707 soldiers, according to British intelligence. As a result of attack on the base of Russian military personnel in the occupied Maka, Russia lost more than 300. In early February, a newspaper reported that the Russian armed forces had killed and wounded nearly 200,000 people in Ukraine in less than a year. Meanwhile, suicide incidents increased their speed. Russian soldiers committed suicide to avoid fighting against Ukraine. That UE greeting a 20-year-old soldier from Komi committed suicide while he was with a soldier in the Moscow region, attracted quite a lot of attached colleagues, had found a soldier hanging from a belt. He had a suicide note with him. Shortly before his death, the man noted that he had rolled into Ukraine. The soldier tried to negotiate not to be sent to the front, but was simulated and bullied by his commander. In response, in a note he wrote, the deceased added that he could not tell the haul of the bullying, but that he wanted his commander to go to jail for driving him to. Relatives edit that signs of assault were found on the body of the conscripted person. But this information was not reflected on the dad's certificate, and they were not told anything about, not recall that in a military unit in the village of Kanka near St. Petersburg, a former enlisted person died. 21-year-old Anna Chakaskin worked in a bathroom for FSP officers of the Russian Federation. He was found in a bathroom, but no one could explain what the man was doing there at night. In addition, in the Belgorod region, a Russian soldier shot a conscript, mistaking it for saboteur. Don't forget, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for watching the video. If you find it useful, please comment and share the video for us. It will make our channel more known. See you in the following videos. Thank you very much.